Hello to everyone and to my fellow Americans, happy 4th of July. The big beautiful bill has passed and is an absolute monstrosity, and it lays out the plan to be crystal clear. And today, to my fellow Americans, I want to tell you what I honestly think you should do. Now, you know on Ruben Tech, we discuss the intersection of tech, politics, and finance. Please hit the like and subscribe button down below if you haven't already. But today, I'm going to bring on some fear mongering. You know I don't do that often if you watch this channel, but today I have to because the plan is crystal clear. Clear Value Accounting, the channel over there, he laid out something, a great series that he called The Great Meltup. Now, it's not like he's the only person that talked about this, but he had a very detailed, like a 101 lesson on what it is. And it's absolutely going to happen. And we know this from the words that they're being spoken by this administration. They just passed the big, beautiful bill in there. They raised the debt ceiling 5 trillion. Yes, trillion with the T dollars. The single largest increase ever. Not even close. Okay, second place is so far away. Biggest increase ever in the debt ceiling. And yes, Scott Basin has the gall to answer reporters and tell them and answer other members of Congress and such and say that he doesn't believe we have to wait to see if this is going to add to the deficit. I might say, how can he possibly say that when they know 100% is going to add to the deficit? Because to him, he's not talking about the dollars as a deficit. So when you look at a deficit, you might say, oh, it's like 36 or 37 trillion dollars. If you take away intergovernmental debt, where it's like the government owes itself money, it's like 28 trillion or something like that. Huge, huge number. And so this would raise that 5 trillion more. So say, okay, instead of having 36 trillion, now we can go up to 41 trillion. Okay, it doesn't sound like a good thing, but the basin, the number that matters is the debt to GDP ratio. And so he's saying he thinks that they're going to fire up this economy so hot that ratio is going to improve. And to him, that's all that matters, because that's the number that becomes attractive to bond buyers. See, right now, the USA is becoming unattractive to bond buyers because people are like, hey, you know, sure, short-term U.S. debt, we'll buy. We think you'll be around in a few years. But 10, 20, 30 years, we're not exactly sure if the USA is going to be around then. Right? And what's that happening? That's causing those bond rates to jump up, which means that when the U.S. has to refinance, now it has to pay more interest, which is a problem. And so what Basin needs to do is he needs to make these bonds more attractive to people. But to do that, we have to look like we somewhat have our fiscal house in order. And the way you do that is by decreasing that debt to GDP number, which is what he's saying is going to happen. And there's also other things they're going to do. They're pulling out all stops. Okay, they're talking about deregulating banks so that banks can hold more U.S. treasuries. So like, okay, we have less demand overseas for U.S. treasuries, but we'll just sell it into our own banks and put them at risk. And then they're also saying now with these crypto stable coins, they're like, yeah, we love crypto stable coins. They can buy more U.S. debt. Any place we can sell this debt into, we'll take. Because less people around the world, they're looking at this and they're like, this is risky. We don't want this. China's going to gold. A lot of people are going into other asset classes. And as they stop buying our debt, we have to find someone else to buy it in order to fund our government. So they have a multiple prong attack here of opening up new markets for U.S. debt and of lowering this GDP debt to GDP ratio. But the only way to lower the debt to GDP ratio, if they're going to spend more, is to increase the GDP quicker than what they spend. And they're increasing debt like crazy. Okay, like crazy. Again, they raised it $5 trillion, trillion with the T. So you're talking about they're going to have to be looking at insane GDP growth. And guess what that's going to bring? Inflation. Now, let me tell you something. Donald Trump and Scott Basin, they know that this is going to happen. China can have growth with the GDP, double digits, for years happen. Their supply side economy, i.e. meaning that their production supply. So their prices don't go up because they always have an oversupply of the consumer goods that they supply to the market. Okay? The U.S. is a consumption-based economy. Just as we saw with COVID, when you inject liquidity in people's hands over here, what they do is they buy more. And if you have more people buying more, that drives prices up. That's how it works. Now, Basin and them are hoping through this tariff war to reshore a bunch of production over here, okay? But that's not going to happen overnight. If that's the work, that's going to take decades. Literally, at the level that they're talking about, that they could have insane GDP growth without inflation. So they're going to fire this economy up as hot as possible. They're just going to get it burning hot. And that's why Trump wants to get rid of Jerome Powell so bad. Trump wants interest rates at 1%. He wants as much liquidity in this market as possible. Okay, because they want to fire this thing as hot as possible. And here's the problem. Who does inflation hurt? Hurts you and me. Hurts the regular guy. It doesn't hurt the rich because assets go up in inflation. Think about what goes up. Housing prices, land, anything that's an asset goes up. Stocks, gold, silver, all that stuff goes up during inflation. Guess what goes down? Dollars. So if you're dollars based, right, which the majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, if you're dollars based, you're going to get crushed. Absolutely crushed. But if you're one of the few that hold many of the assets of the US, you're going to do extremely well. So this is going to accelerate the wealth transfer in America even quicker than it's already been. And you can say that even like upper middle class people will do well. And they will in some respects because it's like the lower part of America and the middle class that don't really hold any true assets outside of their home. But even upper middle class that own some stocks, they don't own it in proportion compared to what the rich do. So it's going to be this small handful of people that are going to just grab all of this increase from the GDP and wealth. They're going to become, they're already filthy rich, but they're going to become astronomically out of sight. It's going to become literally disgusting. It's going to be even a bigger gap than ever before. And the gap's already as huge as it's ever been. And so with this in mind, what can you do? What can my fellow Americans do? I'm not trying to doom and gloom you, but you have to have a plan. Now, I'm not giving investment advice. As I always say, don't do what I say. Go out and do your own research. Okay, this isn't an investment. I'm not a financial advisor. But for myself, I'm making a plan. I don't want to be holding on to dollars. Dollars, they want the dollars to become, understand the plan is to make dollars worth less. Not completely worthless. Worth less. But if they keep pushing so hard, they might make it worthless. But the plan is to make it worth less. It's fully on there. Okay? It's absolutely what they're going to do. It's the only way that they can keep spending. The only way they can spend $1 trillion on a military. The only way they can keep funding their nonstop wars. They're not cutting spending. Okay? So they have to grow the economy. And everything for the dollar is going to be inflated away for its purchasing power. So I would say now more than ever, I'm not trying to fearmonger you, but if you don't have a plan, it's time to make some type of plan of what you're going to do financially with your assets. What you're going to do if the proverbial beep hits the fan. I don't want to swear because I don't know what YouTube's rules are in that. Sometimes it affects it. So anyways, to my fellow Americans, that's the advice I want to give. To the rest of the world, you can get your popcorn. Get your popcorn, sit back, and enjoy and laugh at this experiment, this messy experiment that's going to happen. It's absolutely bonkers. Have a great day.